Thank you, Sav. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so thank you everyone for turning up today. Yeah, as Savannah says, she's going to be in the chat, kind of looking after any questions that come in. So please do post things in there, and we will open it up just after the two speakers as well for questions. So yeah, we're really pleased to see so many people here. I know people probably attended. There was a session on Friday with the ITSS with Sarah Allen. So yes, it's obviously an area where people are looking for kind of any support and guidance and advice. So yeah, that's why we decided to run this session. So we're really grateful to have Ian Tidmarsh and Jan Brett, who are specialist advisors with us at the NTDC, to talk about some areas of a promotional pathway at Liverpool, and then also around the HET, so the career pathways framework that we have developed here at the NTDC. So I'll just move on to the next slides. Oh, it's just not advancing on that slide at the moment. Let me just.
Might just be a case of resharing, Sarah. If everyone wants to just pop in the chat while Sarah does that, then say hello where you're from. And then somebody said that they can't hear anything, so people can confirm if they can hear stuff. That'd be a reassuring and not a waste of an hour of everyone's time. You can hear. Thank you, Katie. Okay, fab. For the person who can't hear, I might suggest that you leave the call and rejoin, and I'll readmit you. Sorry, Sarah.
That's okay, thanks. Is that moved on to the next slide now?
Yeah, that's going ahead.
Fabulous. So yeah, just a quick introduction to us as a centre. So the National Technician Development Centre, we work with our partners, members, to offer kind of services that support technical staff development. And also our sister training arm is Heated. Again, we offer training courses and CPD networking events to members. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, then please do get in touch. As we are looking at kind of career pathways, and it is a topic where institutions and individuals, have a real interest in it, then we just wanted to highlight some things that are coming up. And again, if you're interested, there'll be a feedback form at the end to kind of note your interest in that. But there are some kind of individual career development courses. So these are both half-day courses available online. Kind of about transferable skills, kind of those sideways moves or kind of progress moves that people are looking for. So either for yourselves or people in your teams. And then kind of a bigger kind of one-day course around that kind of technical restructuring, which is obviously happening in quite a few places at the moment. So anything that kind of might help or guide, then please do take a look. And if it's something of interest, then yeah, do get back to us and we can give you some more information on that. So yeah, like I said on the session on Friday, it was really great to hear from both York and Hertfordshire around kind of the projects that they've put in place. And Graham from York did highlight obviously using the HET framework and also the skills survey. So just as a little bit of information around that technician skills survey and what it can actually provide. So it's just that data into kind of the skills, roles, responsibilities of the technical workforce. Which, as we know, is key, having that key data set available to start working on kind of development and provision for technical staff and their development. So yeah, if that's something people are interested in, again, our skills survey team can come along and do a presentation to you and your staff about that and kind of how that might help. So yeah, so the main focus today is on the career pathways. And our first speaker, Ian, is going to speak around the HET, so what we call the higher education technical taxonomy. Bit of a mouthful. So I will hand over to Ian for the first slide on that. I'll put myself on mute.
Okay. So hi everyone, it's great to be here with you all today. So as Sarah said, I'm Ian Tidmarsh and I'm one of the specialist advisors here at the National Technician Development Centre. I'm going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes talking to you about the HET framework, which in its full form is the Higher Education Technical Taxonomy Framework. Throughout this brief presentation today, I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that came through on the Team U mailing list, and also some of the questions that we received directly to the National Centre. Would you progress me a slide on, Sarah? Thank you. So I thought we'd start with a little bit of background. So we started as a HEFCE funded project, so HEFCE being the Higher Education Funding Council for England. And we started back in 2014, and we started as the Technical Development and Modernisation Project. And one of the issues that was facing the sector at that time, and I think it's probably fair to say is indeed still facing the sector now, is that there was a lack of clear and incremental technician career pathways. And one of HEFCE's aspirations at the time was to deliver a single common role architecture that would be adopted by all universities. And we'll come back to that final point towards the end of this presentation. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, just move me back up one. So when we started the project, we reached out across the sector and we formed a group of about 40 universities who all had a shared interest in career pathways. We also worked with Sue Cherm, who was one of the co-leads of Heated at the time, and we worked with Matt Levy, who had developed the CATS framework, the CATS framework being the competency assessment tool for technical staff. We had a shared approach that was to build on the best bits of the CATS, but also to seek and embed current sector best practice from the 40 university partners, but also to have an eye on what was going on in the sector, what the emerging trends were, and to also build those into the work that we did. Next slide, please, Sarah. It took us about 3 years working together to develop the HET framework. And once it was developed, we agreed that we would retire the CATS and that the HETS framework would become the standard. And the framework has 3 components. So the first component is the higher education technical taxonomy, which is the architecture of incremental roles and their names or role titles. Next slide, please. So you can see the taxonomy on this slide. So the role numbers presented across the top are just numbers, they just indicate progression. And it's really important to note that early on in the project, we decided that we wouldn't link any of the roles to pay because there was a great deal of difference between organisations in terms of what technicians at different roles were paid for various reasons, relating to a number of things, including, market forces, which part of the country universities were based in. You'll notice that in the centre of the taxonomy, the roles diverge into 2 paths. One of these reflects the management pathway, and the other reflects the technical specialism pathway. And these roles could be teaching and or research focused. Next slide, please. This second component is the capability framework, and this describes the attributes that individuals need to be able to successfully complete each role. So this is the abilities that people need to be successful in each of the roles. And the final component are the role outlines. Many of our consultancy clients find that the role outlines are the most accessible. And the role outlines, as you will all be able, as you all know, define the tasks and objectives that are required of individuals to successfully complete each role in the family. Next slide, please. Once the project had completed, the framework moved to the National Technician Development Centre, and the Office for Students who endorsed the centre as a national body wanted to ensure that the framework was utilised by the sector and continued to be updated and refreshed. Since completion of the initial project, we've supported around 25 universities to use and embed the framework. And given the differences between universities in terms of their focus, their size and shape, their organisational structure, etc. The framework requires tailoring to individual organisational needs, and that's part of the support we offer at the centre. And next slide, please. To ensure that the framework continues to serve the sector, we work against a set of 3 key principles. The first is that the framework is a set of living documents. The second is that we continue to update the framework based on our ongoing conversations and partnership working. And the third, as I said on the previous slide, we tailor the framework for each of our partners so that they get a structure that delivers the best for their technical workforce and their university. Next slide, please. So working with new partners. So we are here to support you in achieving the best technical career pathway for your university. And you will all be aware of the benefits of a sound career pathway, including the attraction of the best talent, recognition, reward, and retention. When you work with us, you can be assured that your data and your ideas will be safe. So we won't share your data, and we won't share the details of who we're partnering with anyone else. But obviously the people that we work with are free to share that we're partnering with them with others should they wish. We will support you in your career pathway journey and the development of that. And that could be that you're looking to do a large scale project where you might be thinking about implementing a revised role family. Or it could be a smaller piece of work where your university is just looking to understand where enhancements could be made in the existing structure. We also act as an impartial and critical friend. So we're not wedded to the way that things are at your current university. We're not involved in the politics, and we are a fresh pair of eyes. And next slide, please. So some recent updates. So we have very recently updated the framework to introduce 2 new roles, and we're going to have a look at the revised taxonomy on the next slide. We've also been doing some work around the technician survey to improve the data that we collect in terms of career pathways so that we can provide more information to participant organisations about how they may engage with and use the HETS framework going forward. And we are currently supporting 2 partners with their vision and implementation of a research technical professional pathway. Last slide, please, Sarah. So on this slide, you will see the updated taxonomy. So as I said on an earlier slide, as we work with new partners, as we have conversations with people in the sector, we update the taxonomy and the associated documentation. And we're sharing with you now the latest version of the taxonomy. And you will see that we have split the centre part of the taxonomy. If we just take a moment to look through this. So the first role is assistant technician, followed by technician. The pathway now splits into 3 roles, 3 routes. So the centre role is the more managerial route, senior technician, technical manager. The route at the top is more research focused. So research technical specialist, senior research technical specialist. And the route along the bottom, teaching focused, technical tutor, senior technical tutor. And then as we progress through those roles, technical operations manager and head of technical services. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, that was a really good summary of everything that's happened. So I think what the plan will be, we'll move on to Jan with her slide. So again, about another 10 minutes with Jan, and then we'll open it up to kind of questions after that. if that's okay with you, Jan.
Yep, that's good. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, fab. Yep. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, I am also a specialist advisor to the NTDC, and for my day job, I'm strategic technical lead in the Faculty of Health and Life Sciences at Liverpool. So lots of you might have heard us talking about our Research Technical Professional Pathway, or RTP, as I'll call it, because it's a bit of a mouthful, in previous talks, but I'm just going to try and quickly go over it and summarize it in the next 10 minutes, and also kind of refer to how the NTDC skill survey can help us develop our staff to move into this pathway. So next slide, please. Yeah, so you might be familiar with this diagram. It was from the Talent Commission report from a couple of years ago now, around the recommendation that we do look at introducing a specialist pathway. And we know very much it was needed for recruitment and retention purposes of our technical skills in our organisations. And we know that traditionally we had that sort of glass ceiling, where you'd have to come away from your beloved bench or whatever you were working as technician to move into management if you wanted to progress. But really, I think every level, and this sort of links with the new diagram Ian just had, which referred to that sort of specialism coming around entry points 3 or 4, I think it was, on the HETs. For us at Liverpool, we see that around grade 5 and 6 on our career pathway. And I know, as Ian said, everyone's different. So for our salary points at those grades are, for us at grade 5 would start around 28,000 to 32. And grade 6 would be 32 to 37,000. And our grade 10, which is, I'll come on to, but that's our sort of highest level on our new pathway, which is professorial level equivalent, is around 77 to 87,000. So we knew that we had to look at introducing this pathway for lots of different reasons. And I think there'd been a concerted effort of Liverpool to sort of get that over the line in recent years, which we've done. So next slide, please. So for us at Liverpool, our RTP pathway starts at grade 6. So just a reminder, that's 32,000 and goes up to grade 10, which is 77. But our grade 5 staff can apply for a promotion into it. But the first year we ran that, so we ran the first cohort last year, we didn't include that grade 5 option whilst we were kind of figuring everything out. But we're just going through we've just closed our second cohort applications, and we've got some grade 5s that have applied for promotion into it this year. So moving on to our RTP pathway is not a compulsory thing. So even if you were applying, you're eligible, you could still choose to stay on whatever career pathway you're on at the moment, whether that's technical or academic related. So you can either apply, and it's all done by application process for either a transfer or transfer and promotion. And in each application, you have to evidence your experience and skills against a number of indicators that recognise both you and your professional development within that role. So there are essential criteria and desirables as well. So next slide, please. So I think when the working group were coming up with these indicators, and there will be a link later on and an email and a QR code you can look at, and I'm happy for the slides to be shared. We had a huge working group working on this because we know that it would be relevant to a real diverse community of staff at Liverpool. So all of our indicators had to be really widely relevant. But the assessment areas are kind of in those 5 areas that you see there around technical skills, professional development, leadership management, stakeholder focus, outputs and impact. And you'll be able to, via the QR code, have a real look at that later after this talk. So next slide, please. These are just some examples so you can see how they differ as you progress up the pathway. So if you just click next slide as well. Under grade 7, it says that you can advise and assist students based on your kind of technical skills and knowledge, whereas up at grade 9, you'd be really leading that the provision of guidance to other specialists and have a real vision and goal within the context of our university strategy for the area that you're working in. So next slide, please. And you might as well click on again because that just highlights as well. And I guess if we look at teamwork, leadership and management at 7, you're making real significant contributions to your team, and you take on a leading role when appropriate, whereas up at 9, it's all about that strategy again, leading and facilitating change and just really driving the whole thing forward. Okay, next slide. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we initially opened this up for 6 to 10, and this year grade 5s have been included. So within the first year, we did a bit of a scoping exercise first off, and we thought that we would possibly have around 200 staff in scope that could move on to this pathway. But we received the first year 55 applications, and I think the numbers for us this year in round 2, it's about 35. But for the first year, 80% of those applications were for promotion. The success rate, we saw that all those applying for transfer were successful, and 45% of those applying for promotion were successful. But what was our real sort of, cheer moment is that we now have 2 grade 10s, and we're still debating the name, but we think we're going to hopefully call them professors of practice, which would really bring that kind of parity of esteem with our academic colleagues. And we're always learning as we go along. So we've been refining the application process. And then this year, the current RTPs have been offering some mentoring support for staff going through it this year. Next slide, please. So just to really focus that first round down onto our technical staff, we know, again, earlier that for us, it's around grade 6 that we had that glass ceiling. But it was really nice to see that out of our 23 staff that applied, technical staff that applied last year, we had 10 move from grade 6 to 7. So we really felt like that was smashing that glass ceiling. And we had 2 grade 7 move up to grade 8, which again is just brilliant. And we'd only really seen that, if they were moving into management before. Next slide, please. So just to put a face to that, and with a little case study. So this is Tony. He's in the Faculty of Science and Engineering. He started out his career as an analytical chemistry apprentice and came to join us as a teaching and research technician. And I guess the role that we could play as managers and strategic leads, and using the data from our NTDC skill surveys to really look at our cohort of staff and identify those that have real potential to be moving into that technical specialist route, and then enabling that by supporting them with development, and similarly for those showing a flair for management as well. But Tony's worked his way up. He became a senior learning technologist, and then last year applied to the pathway and was successfully promoted up to grade 8, becoming a senior research technical professional. And I think the real evidence for Tony's leading there and strategically leading is that he's a co-lead for this international engineering education initiative. Tony's a great example as well, because people think, because we've got the word research in our RTP title, that it's only for staff that are undertaking research or linked with research, but Tony is involved in teaching and teaching in the engineering students. So, it really is open to everybody with a technical specialism, whatever they're doing at Liverpool. Okay, next slide. Our pathway is sort of non-linear and voluntary again. And sorry, I've just seen a chat. It's for all technical areas. That's why we had to kind of make it as broad as we could. But it is voluntary, and you can move in and off the pathway. So it's sort of, you're not fixed on it once you move. If you find out that you actually want to go back into management and that's the way your career is going to go, then you can come off that. Next slide, please. So just to say, if you're thinking about introducing this in your institutions, our working group was really large and diverse, but we definitely did have the technician's voice captured there, and we were listened to, and some changes were made from the opinions that came through from technicians. But it was great, and it was really successful, I think, because of that really diverse representation. Next slide. So I think we can just leave this on for a minute. If hopefully people will be able to click on that QR code while it's up, but if not, we can share the slides afterwards. That should link to our page that tells you about not only sort of how and why we introduced it, but some top tips if you want to introduce it yourselves. And also there's more case studies on there as well. I think that's all from me.
That's great. Thanks,
Leave
Jan.
that up. Yeah.
I'll leave that up so people can have a chance to scan that.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you, Jan, and thanks, Ian, as well. So so kind of really useful to kind of hear about the development of that, and obviously it's a big project, isn't it, in implementing it and getting it to run at Liverpool. But yes, every success there. So I think there are quite a few questions in the chat as well. We did want to just kind of gauge where people were in their kind of career pathways, projects, journeys, and I know this question was asked at the session on Friday, but we're just going to put up a quick poll question, if that's okay, Sav, just to ask people kind of where you are, with your career pathways projects. If people could just take a minute just to respond to that'd be great. And then we do, obviously there's quite a few questions which we'll open up to Ian and Jan as well. So yeah, so I think we've got
Just a few more to come in.
a few more respondents.
Responding.
So yeah, I think a few more to come, but I think it's showing a similar pattern to the session last week, with about 50% of people have, part of a project that's started. Probably a higher percentage at the start of that journey, thinking about what that career pathway is going to look like, and who's going to be involved in that, and how that's going to take shape. And then kind of 8%, similar percentage who've published a career pathway, and then those who are kind of adding to it and building on that as well. So thank you for everyone for sharing that. That's just useful to know for us and for everybody in general as well. So we can share those results on there. And it's I guess it's opening up to the questions now, which I think we've had quite a few in the chats. And I know we did have some bigger questions, obviously, about I'll put them up on there for people. Feel free to kind of enter anything back into the chat, or open up their mics to kind of voice any of the challenges that they feel that they're facing, or what kind of support will be needed. But is there anything in the chat, Sav, that's kind of we can direct back to Ian and Jan to answer now?
Yeah, I'm just thinking it might be good if, do you need to share anything else? I'm wondering.
I don't think so. Shall I stop sharing now?
Pop those questions in the chat for people, and then we can have a read through them, because there is one that as well that came through as a direct message to me. So if people want to do that, if there's something that you don't feel comfortable putting in the kind of group chat, then if you send it to me, I'll send it through as kind of anonymous as well. But yeah, they start from Joe Scamp. Is there anywhere we can see the new updated pathways from the original version?
Yeah, so it's in progress at the moment. Sorry, is that directed for Jan, sorry, or for us?
I think
that was an NTDC.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I was jumping in there, but yeah, so it is still a work in progress with the improvements, and we're obviously working with kind of partners on that who would have access to that. And so that, Ian, that's something which I don't know if we can put a time frame on that, but it's certainly in hand, isn't it? You've got your hand up. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, we need it ready, Sarah, aren't we, with that now? So I think we can start to have conversations within the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did see a conversation. Sorry, there was a question just while I'm on. There was a question about what if you have technical staff who are doing teaching and research within their role. So we still do have the the original version of the framework, and that does have that specialist role that does teaching and research. So we, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't see who asked that when that popped up. I only just read that bit. So we could still use the work from that for those instances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, there's different options available, isn't it? Depending on the circumstances of the project that people, you know, where they're trying to go with those pathways. So yeah. I think there was a question for Jack. I just saw there's a few questions in there actually. Just trying to see the most.
Do you want me to go through them, Sarah? Would that be better?
Sorry, say that again, Soph.
Want me to go through them?
Yeah, if you can see it, yeah, if you can get the most recent ones on there.
Yeah, so we that one came through privately was, why isn't there further route for technical specialists in the taxonomy, i.e. it stops at 0.5? I think that might be for Ian.
No, that's fine. So there isn't at the moment in the taxonomy. That doesn't mean to say that through a piece of work we did with a partner we couldn't develop something. I think we need to do a little bit more work with some of our partners at the moment that are looking at the RTP pathways to see what we converge on as something that we'll release in terms of that. So we can have conversations about that by all means, but I think we just need a bit more time at the moment to come, you know, to see where we converge.
Lovely, thank you. And then there was a follow-up from Mark saying, yes, is it possible for a senior tech specialist or senior tech tutor to progress further in this structure? And I guess it's probably similar.
Yeah, it's just to say that I think the RTP pathways, we've done it, Warwick have done it, a number of along the way of looking at it, and there's no kind of one model fits all. It is different for each organisation, although there are similarities, so that probably doesn't help at all. But what I'm saying is I'm not sure that the NTDC could come up with something that would fit for everybody. You'd still need to be looking at it in your organisation.
Yeah, so we'll still need to tailor it with each individual organisation, and that was the point in the presentation. You know, that's part of what we do. It's tailoring what we've got to fit each organisation. You know, some universities have RTP pathways now, but other universities will have slightly different ways of doing that, as Jan says. And what we will do is we'll wait until we've seen another few universities do that to come up with something that we then embed within the taxonomy. It's the best practice approach. I'm not saying that the one, you know, Jan's is the best, but it's a bit more, you know, we need a bit more time and we need to see another couple of examples. But yeah, you know, that's the aspiration, isn't it? You know, that's your aspiration, Jan, isn't it? That people can progress to a higher level and there isn't a barrier.
Yeah, I definitely, and I've looked at Warwick's, and you know, to give them credit, they've got much more detail around their teaching specialism than we have. So, you know, we're going to review after the second year, and we could possibly be pinching some of their ideas as well. Sharing best practice, I mean, yeah.
Lovely, thank you both. And then the next one, this one, I believe is for you, Jan. Can techs apply as a promotion in the same role at Liverpool? In Sheffield, one has to find a role at a higher grade and apply for it to progress, i.e. no existing promotion route like there is for academics.
Yeah, so the RTP is a promotional pathway, so you can apply to move up because it's about you and as an individual and your specialism and speciality. But we don't see that for our kind of grade 1s to 6 yet at the moment. But I guess the introduction of this pathway has opened up those conversations. But yeah, similar to you, we would still have to move around if we wanted to progress. But that's a good thing as well because you get upskilled in different experiences in doing that. Yeah.
So thank you. And then I think this one was actually covered as you were speaking, is this implemented for all technical areas or only science related? But if you want to reiterate.
All areas, you know, so we want to, we've had conversations with our libraries and museum staff as well, although we've not had any applications through from them, but they would certainly meet that technical specialism and specialist nature of the RTP. So yeah, every part, and I think that's why that pre-work took such a long time. I think from what the working group said, there were 3 failed attempts to get this done. And it's been many years in the making, although I've only been part of it for the last 3 years or so. So yeah.
Lovely, thank you. And then another question, sorry, Jan, taking on you now. Would it be possible to have a document summarising Liverpool pathways and successes that could be shared with other institutions as a great example? And you've shared that link.
Yeah, it's all on that web page, which the QR code should take you to. But if you've got any issues accessing that, and you know, we've got that RTP email, or you can get in touch with me, that's fine.
Yeah, and I'll be sharing the slides after today's session as well, so there'll be everything in there that you can use to follow up. And then, sorry, Jan, does Liverpool publish their salary scales in aid to aid in deciphering their grades?
Yeah, and I know that's why I make a point of trying to tell people it when we start talking about grades. And I think in those documents, I did ask if we could refer to that, and our leads for RTP kind of said because they change. I think there should be a link to it. So I imagine it is external, our salary scales, but I'll go and check. But yeah, it's just the national salary scales that we use.
Right, thank you. And then, oh, that's a question from me. I'll not ask that one because it was to everybody else. And then another one from Victoria. What does it cost to commission the NTDC to work with institutions? Sarah, I don't know if you want to cover this, or Ian.
Yeah, so it's part of the membership offer. So for partners who are members with us as NTDC, that kind of starts the initial work with a specialist advisor and looking at the kind of the remit of what people are wanting to do. So yeah, so we can certainly kind of provide that information directly to people. And yeah, have a quick chat about it as well if that's useful to get in touch.
Lovely, and yeah, I'll be sending out a kind of feedback survey at the end of the session. It'll pop up automatically from Zoom, so within that there'll be options for us to contact you. You can just put your details down, and we can get in touch about that. Then we'll have your details on there. And then it's one from Tracy. I'm interested in how to break through that glass ceiling. Teaching techs can only get to grade 6. The next role is then technical manager at grade 8, which is something that's very much heard of. So. Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to that, and I guess that's a lot of the motivation behind your work, Jan, and the teams across the universities. Another question for Jan from Giovanna: are technical professionals in Liverpool still under professional services?
Yes, we are still professional services. Yeah, so it's a subset of what we call PMSA, which I can never remember when I'm put on the spot, but it's something like professional, managerial, specialist, and admin, something like that. Don't quote me. So yeah, still professional services.
Yeah, and I'll pop in the chat now as well another link to the heated course in June, which is about technical service structures and restructuring, because there's been quite a lot going on about that within our network, but particularly for people who are looking for these kind of pathways and making those changes. That is something that's yeah, sometimes implemented. So I've just popped that in the chat there. And then from Tom, we're scratching our heads looking at pathways, job descriptions, skills matrices that work across disciplines. Liverpool example look like it might solve that to some extent. So I know you said yours wasn't the best, Jan, but it may well be up there. And then how can these pathways be implemented when your uni doesn't recognise technical staff teaching? Yeah, so that's a good point actually. I don't know who wants to take that one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of overall picture of who their technical workforce are and what they're doing is quite key to that, isn't it? Is having all of that, it's not a direct plug for the survey, but that does provide institutions with, the baseline data on that. And often in the first stages for some universities running the survey, it was that yeah, that their technical staff don't teach, but then the survey data showed otherwise, that they do. So I guess it's having that real understanding of yeah, kind of what the technical colleagues within your institution are actually doing in order to then kind of make that step, you know, with the pathways and have that clarity and parity with academic colleagues as well. Yes, it's not going to happen overnight, but yeah, it's certainly something that there's experience of people kind of being able to put forward a case based on the data. So yeah, I know that doesn't help an individual, but I guess kind of working with colleagues, peers in the sector who might have been able to, you know, kind of break through those, we talk about those glass ceilings, or making those next steps and things they may have done, and trying to kind of work with people who and give these suggestions of any kind of training that's been useful for them, or yeah, I can't think of any other suggestions. Jan, I don't know if you've got any particular examples, or Ian, sorry, go on.
Sorry, yeah, just to second that. I mean, the reason that we've got the technical tutor pathway in distinct from research is for that reason, to keep it out there that technicians are doing research and they're doing teaching, and the teaching pathway is as important. Most universities' primary income source is from students' education. So I think, as Sarah said, we just need to keep on with that message. That's why we've got that distinct pathway now within HET, so we can keep on plugging that message. Thanks.
Thanks, Ian. Sorry, Jan, I don't know, did you want to add anything to that? That's okay.
Okay, so next question we've got: how does the promotion pathway work for grant or alternatively funded technical roles?
Yeah, it was open to everybody. So there was a commitment from the university. We know that those grant funded ones, there'd be an implication cost wise if they were to be promoted, but we were going to support that, and there was a commitment from the Liverpool from the university to support that. So it doesn't matter where your funding was coming from, but it also that there would be no change to your terms and conditions. So if you were fixed term contract, you'd remain fixed term contract on RTP. And similarly, if you were part-time, it would be the same. We know we had a lot of concerns around some of our facilities that operate a cost recovery model if there was going to be suddenly increase in staff costs. But again, we were just going to commit to that. And then, but going forward, it would probably have to be written into, you know, staffing and business plans going forward. But I think lots of people were concerned about that, but actually, because our numbers are fairly small compared to what we were thinking, it's not really been an issue. But we know when we've got a commitment to support the progression of our academic staff, so it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Shall I go to the next question?
Yeah, go for it. Yes.
I think that answers Giovanna's question as well about source of funding. So to clarify about technicians being under professional service at Liverpool. So okay. So our technicians are on a technical contract. Once you become an RTP, you're on that PMSA. So there is a difference there. Is PMSA an organisational structure, or was that saying that technical career pathway was a subset of? Oh, I don't know. I'm a bit confused there by that question. Andrew, I don't know if you want to unmute and clarify that. Andrew, are you there? Don't know. So yeah, we've got a technical career pathway that can go up to 8, but the RTP pathway sits under that PMSA, that professional managerial specialist and admin, when we're doing HESA returns, that kind of thing. Kevin's put some comment about the gradings. Yeah, I agree with that, but PMSA can start from 6 onwards at Liverpool. Have we seen improvement for technical staff and the university for having this new pathway? Yeah, so you know, so we've got some case studies that be able to read on that website. So you know, we've got staff that are suddenly thinking, great, you know, at last is and it's aspirational, I guess, for the rest of our technical workforce. And we've had, I think, about 200 different institutions contact us to see how they can do it as ourselves. So, you know, it's just been brilliant all round, I think. Any link to those case studies? Yeah, on the QR code, which
I've
is
just
that?
put the link in. I've just put the link in the chat. Yeah, 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 just in case people are on their phones and stuff.
Thank you.
I
That's
think
great.
that's all of the questions
Yeah.
covered. I'll just as you guys continue, make sure we've not missed anything from further up.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. And if there's anything that anybody wants to unmute and kind of voice any kind of challenges if they're at the beginning of their pathway journey, or any questions to Ian or Jan, then yeah, please do unmute. Sophia's put amazing work at Liverpool. Any hints about how to persuade sector management to take technician promotions seriously?
Yeah, there is that report as well that came out from Talent about the economic implications of not enacting the recommendations, which we can share as well. So it's more a case of, you know, why shouldn't they do it, than why should they do it? And I think they need to understand that whole recruitment, retention, and the costs involved in all of that, to help get it over the line.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is like it's a huge thing that obviously lots of universities are taking seriously now and looking to implement with professional services pathways and technical services pathways as part of that. So yeah, I guess any kind of like tips for people, or yeah, any kind of what would you say, Jan, has been like the biggest challenge for Liverpool getting that through and getting it released?
Sorry, I was only half listening then because I was just trying to put some stats in there. The biggest challenge, I think everybody was really up for it. So they just needed, I guess, convincing of how we were going to do it. But I think we had some really strong leaders that led the project. So Julie Leder, who's our head of HR operations, has just been absolutely instrumental in getting this over the line. So I think generally you'll find your senior leadership understand the need for it. So it's not this huge battle that you need to face, really, is the experience we found.
Thanks, Jan. Yeah, Ian, is there anything else you want to add before we finish up?
No, I don't think so, Sarah.
Okay, fabulous. So yeah, so I think we probably covered most questions in the chat. I don't think there's anything else there, but
Yeah, they're all covered.
yeah, so obviously, you know, there will be further questions that people have, and once people have had a chance to have a look at you know, the kind of the HET framework and the RTP, and you know, do come back. There will be, yeah, some session feedback that Savile just released to everybody there. If people could just take a few minutes just to fill that in, and then obviously connect and put some contact details if there's any further, you know, you want to have a chat with us around, you know, the membership using the HET, the technician survey, or even like the heated training, if there's interest either with yourselves or with people in your team, then do get in touch, because it is an area that there's so much, you know, interest and drive to get those pathways in place for people and to have that clear progression and parity. So yeah, it is a really key piece of work, and it's, you know, it is a big project for most institutions to kind of undertake. So any help and support that we can provide, then yeah, do get in touch with us, and obviously Jan's left details as well for information around the RTP resources. So yeah, unless there's anybody else has got any questions, we'll pull it to a close. But thank you everyone for your time this lunchtime, and I'll let you kind of nip off and finally grab some lunch and some refreshments. But yeah, we will have more of these TechMeet series, which Savannah will promote. So I just think it's really useful to kind of get people together and share their best practice and experiences on different topics. So yeah, we'll update when the next one of those is coming up and share that with you. But yeah, thank you to Ian and thank you to Jan in particular for your time today, and for Sav as well for organising everything smoothly as ever. But yeah, so thank you everybody, and I'll let you all head off for lunch.